We are live.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be watching our live stream. We are here to celebrate a pretty wild milestone, if you will, and we're going to discuss a few other things going on in the ecosystem. We have Darren here from Enosys. We have our good friend Thanos from the Flare team, and of course, Flare Forward is here with you. I'm Ace. We have Will, Steven. So let's get right into it. So, Well, you want to kick us off, Steven? You want to kick us off?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been a pretty exciting month with FXRP. Unfortunately, the price action has not followed, but I think that, I mean, I don't know, I've been really enjoying being able to put my FXRP to work. I'm doing some LPs, I'm providing some liquidity for the perpetuals, and just trading back and forth, and it's been super nice. So it's just I had a lot of capital that was just sitting around doing nothing, and then now I can put it to work, and it's been really nice.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing? What are your strategies, AC?
No, I mean, that's for me the main thing. Like, I'm still trying to, in a way, soak it all in that I can finally use my XRP and put it to work because before it was just an idle asset. But I have some FXRP deployed. I'm in some LPs. I've taken leverage out on a percentage of my FXRP. So just soaking it all in that you can actually use XRP in an effective way is still where I'm at, and it'll eventually become more real in a way for me. And I'm pretty sure I'll use it more often, especially as some of these exciting products go live that we'll be discussing today. Stephen, what about you?
Man, I am loving it. I'm loving it. Except for if Kinetic would get their stuff together and let us, give us some unlimited borrowing. That would be much nicer. But no, I'm loving it. Definitely using my XRP to double my bags. That's the goal. And so, yeah, no, looking forward to what Darren's got coming out, and looking forward to hear what Thanos has for us on this journey. But no, guys, I'm loving it. Super excited that it's here. I wish we'd have got to the 70 million that we'd hoped to see, but hey, we are trending, so I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah, we're trending in the right direction. Now, Darren, I know not only are you a builder, but you are also a user of the network as well. So are you participating in any FXRP related DeFi or are you sitting on the sidelines?
No, I mean, I at least dabble in everything, so that I can know everything that's going on and what that user experience is like. So yeah, I mean, I've got assets in our pools. I've got assets on SparkDEX. I've got assets in perps. I'm trading some perps. I'm on Kinetic. I'm doing all of it. Yeah, I mean, it's great to have the XRP that I started buying in mid 2017. Finally doing something with it, um, because that's what makes crypto into an asset class that um, is different from traditional investing in that you purchase these speculative assets, but then you can actually do something with that value. And that's where the utility piece comes in, right? And so XRP, even though some were using it for some things, in general, it was a buy and wait kind of thing. And now, with F assets and bringing FXRP on board, it's now a okay, yeah, you can buy it and you can hold it and you can wait, or you can also buy it and you can bring it over and do some things with it and make that value work for you, um, which is just great to see for XRP.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, I think that's a very clear distinction too. Like before F assets, there were a few ways that you could probably use XRP, maybe not the most straightforward and transparent way. I remember like before regulations came down, you had Nexo. I know a lot of people had their assets in Celsius, and we all know how that ended up, unfortunately. So there were a couple of ways that you could use XRP, but F assets is really the first decentralized, transparent way that I would say that you can use XRP in a lot of meaningful ways. So very different distinction between those two, but. Thanos, how's things been looking on your side? I know you've been more outspoken, at least on socials, in terms of what's coming, what people can do with XRP, why this is important. But what are you guys seeing behind the scenes over on the Flare side? How's things going from that perspective?
Yeah, it's been going well. We had quite a hot start, to be honest, and I mean, I can give you guys some numbers as to how quickly we were minting FXRP. We launched our first minting session or phase with 5 million XRP without notifying anyone. That minted out in about 4 hours. The next sessions that we opened one for Asia and then one for the US because we heard some feedback people in Asia didn't have time to mint. Those both minted out in 90 minutes each, so that was 2.5 million each. That was another 5 million minted out in 3 hours. That was the first 10 million. And then since then, we've just been doubling and raising the caps, and they've mostly been filling. Now, it's been interesting. We see a lot of like where, like what wallets and where people are minting from, and a lot of it has been from Bifrost specifically, which has been a Flare focused wallet that has Flare and XRP on it. And then there's, as we added Ledger and Zamin Connection, so not Zamin XRPL smart accounts, but just Zamin and Connection, we saw a little bit more come from there, and the Ledger side has been growing. So people are moving or minting at least using their ledgers. So we're seeing a lot of minting from various different wallets and things like that. We've been creeping up to this cap, which is set at about 50 million. But I mean, as I spoke to you guys about this earlier, that cap really is just there. Just I, I mean, we have the ability to raise it as needed if there is more demand. Um, but yeah, it's been honestly, I think, a much stronger start than I even expected. Like to get to this point, 47.5 million XRP in about a month. I mean, you're talking like I mean, at $3, it's like close to $130 million. That's quite no joke, right?
Yeah.
And the craziest part about all of it is like our biggest institutional partners haven't even hopped in the pool yet. Like that's kind of the crazier part about all this. It's just like this has been all organic demand for us, and so that's really kind of the next step that we're looking towards.
Yeah, I think that to me, that's the most interesting piece is that most of this growth has been retail driven. And that's amazing to see, right? Because it really shows the power of retail and the level of demand that is on that side of things. Now, obviously, we know institutional partners are lined up, and there's certain milestones that need to be hit before we really start to see activity from them on chain. But um, I think that's a milestone that I would at least pat myself on the back. Being part of retail, that's pretty awesome. So hopefully we see continued growth in the right direction, and looking forward to seeing more.
Yeah, when I was plotting out the business case for loans, I plotted out what I'd kind of expected the growth curve to be for both FXRP and for loans when we launched it. And we're about 2 to 3 months ahead of where I thought the growth curve would be for FXRP. So things definitely moved faster than I expected them to as well, which is a great sign because again, like that's all users, that's all retail, that's all people wanting to do something with their FXRP, most of whom are already, and the rest are waiting for things that everybody knows is coming. So I think it's going to be really nice to see how much of that gets plugged in, how quickly. I think there's going to be a lot of growth there very quickly.
What has been the impact on Enosys since FXRP came up? Do you have any data that you can share?
Well, I mean, we've had increased volumes. We've had increased TVL. I guess our TVL on the FXRP side, we're probably up, well, 1.5 to 2 million. The liquidity depth on those is really good. I think I put out, or we put out a post a couple of days ago talking about that liquidity depth, that that about 35% of our liquidity depth on those pools is within, plus minus 5% of the active range. So that's, that's 600,000 or so active liquidity for FXRP right there. And that's only within the first few weeks. So all of that's providing trading, providing arbitrage opportunities, providing liquidity for all of that, and then providing fees back to those that are providing liquidity, as well as to the platform and the product suite itself. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to continue to have a growing impact. The more assets that get brought on, the more activity there is. It's more of an exponential growth curve than it is linear. So the more things that come on board as we go forward, there's going to be staked XRP, and so that will need pools, and there will be arbitrage that happens there, and there will be activity around that, and that all just kind of starts to scale. So the more we grow, the more we grow, and that's true for us. That's true for the network. So we're right at the beginning of that, right? We're a month into FXRP. It's been growing faster than anyone thought it was going to grow, and I think that's probably going to continue. I mean, we're already the biggest DeFi ecosystem for XRP out there, really, and that's in a month for people who were already users of Flare, basically. So
yeah, it's pretty wild to see the difference between like the sentiment with price action, but to actually what's happening in the chain. And I feel like there's a big disconnect. And yeah, I just find that very interesting, to be honest, because like all the metrics that we can track are pointing to the positive, but the price action is telling a different story. But like there's more than just price action, as we know in crypto.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the thing about price action, right, is that you got to remember that price action is speculative. Like it's future looking speculation. And so if people knowing something was coming were buying up the asset, some are buying it to use. Most are buying it because they assume it's going to appreciate. If that doesn't happen, those that bought it for the appreciation are going to get out of it. And that's pretty normal. And then as the actual growth happens, right, which is starting, but we're still at the very beginning of F assets. As that actual growth increases, as the use cases increase, as the demand for the asset itself to be used in things increases, then you see actual value that starts to grow. So trying to separate out what's actual value from what's speculation is a constant in all markets. And that's where you find the edge on something. But yeah, it's actually not surprising to me at all that Flare dropped off after the launch of F assets, because anyone who was counting on that for some sort of 5x God candle got all sad and decided that they would sell. But if you're going to be here for a year, 2 year, 3 years, 5 years, if this is the kind of ecosystem that you want to have your financial efforts in, then it's just as good a time to get in as any.
For sure, a lot of people are crying about price action, and all I see is opportunities. So maybe one thing that we could go into it is the liquidity flywheel. How like the more volume, the more arbitrage opportunities, the more fees are paid into the liquidity provider. So then more people add more liquidity. And I think that that's a fascinating thing that, people miss, and kind of comes back to what you were saying before.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the ecosystem expansion is all about, right? Like that's what Thanos is working on, is bringing in builders, bringing in that ecosystem growth, because these things feed each other. The more things there are for people to do with their assets, the more that there's going to be just kind of volume growth everywhere, right? Because anytime there's an imbalance in opportunity between two different systems, there's going to be someone who's going to balance that. And so they all end up equalizing, but volumes grow based on activity and based on liquidity. And so that all kind of feeds itself and starts to flywheel. So as long as we're seeing total, like things like total TVL, total activity heading up and to the right, then we're moving in the right direction. the rest of it will come along. Price is price. Like people buy, people sell, whatever. But volume and activity and total liquidity is the growth that you really want to see if you're looking for more than a point to exit. And so that's what we are seeing, which is going to be good for everyone.
For sure. I enter a LP right after the liquidation, and I'm already 13% up in return of investment. Like, it's just crazy how, yeah, when everybody was selling, and I don't know, I feel like if you were bullish on Flare a month ago, then nothing has changed. Like, other than price action, which moved with the whole market, it wasn't just Flare that moved. I mean, there's no reason to be bullish a month ago and then bearish right now. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think where I'm interested in is more of like those growth metrics over time. You know, we're clearly embarking on new territory with FXRP, but what does it look like when we add our next F asset and being able to compare some of those metrics, those interest points, you know, just I think that would lead into growth as well on top of what you can actually do with the asset once it's on. I'm pretty sure that's going to grow as the network grows and matures as well. I'm pretty sure Thanos, you guys are cooking things behind the scenes from a business development standpoint. Obviously, builders like Darren, you guys are cooking as well and bringing some value to the network, and those things are only going to multiply as we move in the right direction. So, I mean, price is one thing. Yeah, it's always good to it's okay to talk price from time to time, but I think for the most part, it's about the growth metrics and the value proposition of what the network in its entirety offers. And if that isn't going in the wrong direction, if we're steady heading in the right direction in terms of that, I think we're in good hands. I think we're headed in the right direction for sure. So, well, you talked about flywheel. Is there any particular, well, actually, before that, for the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat. We have some very great minds on the call right here today. If you have any questions that you want us to hit while we have these great individuals, be sure to type those in the chat and we'll get to them. Wanted to get that house cleaning item out the way. So, in other words, well, is there any other particular product or anything that we know about that you would like to kind of discuss? I mean, we have Inosys Loans V2, which actually I kind of went over that this week again in a community call with the Den. And we're starting to see, at least from my perspective, we're starting to see some more interest in understanding how things like that work. The main interesting part is being able to control your interest rate. A lot of people, at least that I've been talking to, are kind of blown away by that aspect. But Darren, would you actually mind kind of giving us a high level overview of what Inosys Loans is? Why is it different from like a traditional uh, leverage platform, if you will, and anything else you would like to share related to that?
Sure. Yeah. So Enosys Loans, which will be coming out on Flare Network soon, is a collateralized debt protocol. What that means is that you are putting up collateral. We'll be starting with FXRP and wrapped Flare as collateral options. In the near future after launch, we'll be adding staked XRP and sFLR as well. But basically, you put up collateral and then you borrow against your collateral in a newly minted stablecoin. So that's different from a lend to borrow platform where users put up assets which are the assets that are borrowed by those with collateral. So say if you go to Kinetic right now, you can put up your own collateral and then you can borrow somebody else's assets. That puts the other user as the counterparty, and it has limits to what that kind of growth looks like because you're waiting for others to put in capital to be borrowed. With a CDP, you don't have that issue. You're borrowing against your own collateral, and the way Inosys Loans works is it's a friendly fork of the Liquidity V2 protocol. And one of the features is that it has users set interest rates, which sounds crazy, but the reason it works is because that's just one element of the market for the protocol. There's a risk to having the lowest interest rate, in that if redemptions are made against the protocol, the troves with the lowest interest rate are redeemed against first. So there's kind of a balance that you want to meet from having a lower interest rate, but also you probably don't want to be the lowest interest rate. And so there's kind of a market balance that happens there. Also, another balancing factor is that the troves that are redeemed against are also selected based on the amount of collateral versus debt versus the amount of CDP that's in the stability pool for that collateral type. So if your collateral type is having a lower average interest rate, then there will be less stakers in that stability pool because there's less interest being paid to them for providing stability. Therefore, that asset type is also most likely to be selected for redemption. So it's kind of this weighting system that's going to be back and forth when redemptions are made. Those that are taking the most risk by going lowest on interest rate will end up being impacted first. So it's a balancing act that's going to take some active management. There are functions in there to delegate that interest rate management to third parties. We are talking with some third parties to try to get those services on board so that those that don't want to be in charge of managing their own interest rates can have the option to have someone else do it for them. But yeah.
No, all that sounds interesting, especially for those who may be experiencing DeFi for the first time through DeFi or through Flare Network. Sorry, this is a different concept, so it might take some getting used to. But like I said, the more I've talked about it with people in the community or people who have their ears to what's going on in the Flare network, they're extremely interested in what Inosys Loans V2 has to offer. So it'll be quite interesting to see what the usage rate is and see what the liquidity and volume of that platform will be once it's all live. Because like I said, being able to utilize your collateral that you already have to get stablecoin exposure without necessarily having to sell to get stablecoin exposure is pretty good. I mean, it's pretty solid. So I'm excited. I'm pretty sure plenty of other people are excited as well. So, well, Steven, did you have any questions?
Yeah, somebody's asking, is there insurance when using someone else to manage interest rate, Darren?
There wouldn't be insurance provided by us. You would be paying them a fee, and that would be between you and them as to how that service was rendered. So no, we're not taking on the responsibility for that. We won't be running a delegation service ourselves. We'd rather leave that to those that are going to specialize in that sort of service. But no, we're not offering anything like that.
Nice.
That actually brings up a interesting follow-up question. I guess you probably maybe can't answer this, but not just yet, but would Inosys Loans V2 be a protocol that kind of fits the criteria for an ESS and the Firelight side of things, or do you see any type of synergies along those lines with a protocol like Inosys Loans V2 and Firelight?
It could. I mean, I haven't looked into that and whether or not that sort of relationship would be something we would look for. If it grew big enough, then having that type of insurance might be, worth doing. But we'd have to look at the specific risk factors that we were insuring against, because one of the things about a protocol of that size is that the bigger its scale gets, the more robust it actually comes when it comes to things like market impact, because there's more diversity of collateral ratios. There's there's more liquidity in the market. So it actually becomes more robust the larger it is. So at that point, you're effectively worried about smart contract risk. And that would be the main thing that you would be insuring against. Insuring against things like people getting redeemed or getting liquidated is not a proper use of insurance, because that's just, you need to manage your position. Like a debt position is a leverage position, especially if you then reinvest the debt. If you hold the debt, the position is still leveraged, but you can deleverage very quickly. So that is one thing for people to keep in mind, is that if you're taking debt against your asset, yes, you can be liquidated. You just need to pay attention and have a strategy for how you're going to deleverage that, which if you're just taking the CDP and using that elsewhere to earn yield, earn fees, things like that, then it's pretty easy to undo that, at least partially. So that is one thing for people to keep in mind, is that if you loop, you'll see people talking about strategies of looping, which basically just means creating leverage, where you take debt, buy an asset, take debt, buy an asset, take debt. And you can effectively do that up to basically a 10 or 11x leverage. The reason you can't go on forever is because each time you're effectively able to take less debt off of what you bought, because you're having to leave enough collateral ratio to go lower. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is that the more leveraged you are, the harder it's going to be to unwind that if you need to.
Yeah, I mean, and one of my main things is defense. You got to know when to play it, what's your strategy around defense, things of that nature. It's okay to be a DGen, but DGen responsibly. that's my whole thing. So go ahead, Will.
Yeah, we have this question. What is the difference between redeemed and liquidated? Do you want to give a little bit of what's like the impact? I think
Sure.
liquidated is pretty clear forward, but redeem is a new term for most people.
Sure. Yeah. So starting with liquidated, just so that we can compare against it. So being liquidated means your collateral ratio dropped below the allowed amount, to where that your debt is you no longer have enough collateral value to support the debt, and so you're going to be liquidated. What happens in the case of liquidation? Let's say you have a loan against your FXRP that drops to 110% value, so 91% LTV. So basically, what that means is that your the stability pools step in and pay off your debt for you. So the stability pool for FXRP at that point would pay your debt, meaning those that are in the stability pool would lose some of their CDP that they put in there. In return, they would receive 105% of the value of that CDP in FXRP. The remaining 5% between 105 and the 110, that's your liquidation point, would be returned to you. But 105% of the value goes to the stability pool for paying off your debt. You get 5% back, but your FXRP is gone other than that 5%, because you effectively defaulted on your debt and someone else had to pay your debt for you. So that's a liquidation. A redemption occurs when there's a market mismatch between the price of CDP on the market and the value of CDP based on its backing. So CDP can always be redeemed for the underlying collateral. That's what helps it keep its peg. That redemption process has a small fee to it, and that fee grows the more redemptions happen, and it decays over time. But a redemption would be, say, someone's able to buy the CDP dollar on the market for 95 cents because someone took a big loan and they decided they were going to loop it, and they didn't pay attention to the price impact of their swap, and they made a huge swap and it dropped the price by 5 cents. Now people would freak out and say, oh no, it depegged, but that's just a market move. Someone then comes along and says, hey, I can buy $1 for 95 cents. And so they buy all of those dollars for 95, 96, 97 cents. They take that to the protocol, and most of this will be done by redemption bots. They redeem that for 99.5 cents for each dollar that they have, because there's a 0.5% fee. So those dollars are then burned, and the debt of one of the troves that a user holds is reduced by, let's say they redeem 100 CDP. Someone's trove gets reduced by 100 CDP, and $99.5 worth of their collateral is taken out of their collateral position and given to the person who redeemed. But so they lose $99.50 worth of FXRP, but they also lost $100 worth of debt. So their debt was reduced by more than their collateral was reduced, leading to a net gain. If a lot of redemptions happen, that fee can grow to where you're losing $99, $98 and also having your debt reduced by 100. So that's a redemption, and that's what helps it keep its peg on the market, because otherwise there's no reason for someone to buy the CDP dollar back up to $1. It would just be based on whether or not someone wanted to buy it. And so it would never hold a peg. You have to have a way to redeem for the underlying value for something to hold its peg.
For sure.
So it's like an arbitrage opportunity.
Yeah.
To kind of oversimplify it.
It's basically the same as buying and redeeming sFLR, except there's not going to be a 14.5-day waiting period, because we're not worried about staking timings or anything like that. But it's basically the same kind of idea, except that the person that you're redeeming against, rather than just being the one big total pool, it's just redeeming against a spread of collateral types based on all those things I talked about earlier when it comes to fees and all of that.
Yeah, very interesting topics. For those that may be visual learners, I do know Liquidity V2 themselves put out a video detailing what redemptions are. So you might want to do a YouTube search if you want a further visual on how that works. I know I had to watch it a few times, so don't feel bad at all, because it's a new concept for most of us. So user resources, it's out there. Go check it out. Go ahead.
Let's switch a little bit in topic. We have a user, and this is a question for Thanos, asking about the cap raise. So the idea was that we're going to have 70 million cap this week. And where are we? What are we waiting for? What's the plan?
Yeah, I can hop in and answer that. So right now the cap's at 50 million. We have about 47.5 million XRP minted, close to 48. It's just been inching up. So there's been discussions about when to raise it, and I mean there's still 2.5 million or about 2 million of XRP available to be minted. So I think ultimately we'll slowly see it fill, and then we'll raise the cap again. I think caps will slowly be raised. We have the ability now to raise it higher than just 50 million. And I think there's going to be a few things coming down the pipes in the next few weeks where we'll definitely need some capacity. So it will be raised decently shortly, I would imagine. Obviously, I don't have the final call on that, but we do have the ability to raise them, and I think we will sometime soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Thanos. And then institutional flows. That's something that I guess we're all waiting, because as we know, those almost 50 million has been completely retail driven.
Yeah.
What are you excited about? What's like the next steps? What pieces need to be in place before we can see that kind of action?
Yeah, so a lot of these institutions seeing FXRP minting and the amount that we've onboarded in such a quick pace have actually started reaching out again. And we have a few exchanges that have been testing the FXRP minting flow for their XRP earn program. So there's a few exchanges that are interested. There's a few funds that we've also been speaking to, so that have been looking to deploy as well. And ultimately, for us, it's to access the large pockets of XRP that exist out there, and how do we get there in a scalable fashion. So we have a few exchanges that are interested. We have a few uh, funds, and we obviously have some infrastructure that we're building out for non-custodial wallets that are XRP only to interact directly into the Flare ecosystem. But yeah, nonetheless, the institutions are testing. We're actually working on some kinks with like custodians, like Fireblocks, etc., to help these institutions actually like place XRP into these pools. And so that's what we're currently working on. Those who place their Flare and collateral pools. Yeah. So yeah, there's obviously the collateral pools. I think a lot of those collateral pools for the FXRP minting, they're funded by the volume that goes back and forth, right? But I do imagine once people are like mostly using FXRP on chain, they likely don't move back very quickly, right? Like I think a lot of this is pretty sticky. There's a few pain points that we're working on to try to get people to use their assets on our chain just a little bit better, right? So like stablecoin liquidity within lending protocols, the types of lending protocols we are rolling out with Enosys, and a few others. So just getting better stablecoin liquidity provisioning on chain, I think, is like kind of the first real thing that we need to tackle. Um, and then from there, institutions can kind of put on these more intricate positions once Firelight and things like that are finally live. So we're getting there. Like I mean, I think it's kind of crazy. It took, I don't know how many years to get to F assets, and then within 1 month there's just like this massive inflow, and it's like it takes time to build out an ecosystem. Like I can't just convince like random people to show up like and then within 1 day deploy. It's like a very long cycle of convincing people that this is the right ecosystem, especially for like brand name dApps, right? So yeah, it's definitely growing. Like I hear you guys, like, but I think ultimately like getting to this point is a major win, and I think it'll accelerate a lot faster than people think.
Yeah, and I can imagine the level of hand holding and therapy sessions you guys are doing to kind of onboard some institutional partners and other dApps that have a brand on other networks maybe already. I mean, uh, there's a lot of hand holding in business deals anyway, so I can only imagine what it's like with crypto and things of that nature. I did have a question though related to certain dApps that you guys may be targeting in terms of like business development and things of that nature based on institutional interests. So, just for instance, like was Spectra part of, or something like a Spectra, part of, institutional interest? So you guys had to, find something that kind of fit that need, or how does that go about? Like during these conversations with your institutional partners, they bring what they're interested in, and you guys go look for it, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So where does Spectra kind of fit into this this ecosystem and this equation? So we we wanted a yield trading app specifically because there was a partner that asked us. He's like, "Hey, how do I get a fixed amount of yield on my XRP over a certain term?" Right? So you build a yield product, and then people are like, "Well, I don't want to take variable risk or
Hmm.
variable yield risk. How do I get a fixed amount?" And yield trading, just as a whole within like all of crypto, has grown a lot over these past few years because you get the ability to take in a fixed yield, and you can scale that out much more to users that don't want to take risks of variable yields, right?
Hmm.
So your yield on your XRP can be turned into a fixed yield. Your yield on your Flare can be turned into a fixed yield. Ultimately, yeah, like Spectra, the PT specifically can be used within other dApps as well too, right? So nonetheless, we like every single thing that we bring to this ecosystem is very much calculated and brought on with the intention of something specific to try to reel in more institutions to come on board. And it's definitely happening. Like you can see the tide turning. It's just a matter of testing, getting the custody side of it right, because so many of these exchanges and these funds, they hold them at specific custodians that don't have specific like functionality for doing certain things, and we're actually, like, I think in a lot of ways helping the XRPL grow, right? Because we're helping these custodians and these other like types of places that use XRPL add functionality that the XRPL already exists to be able to leverage Flare, right? So specifically the memo field. Not many custodians have the memo field activated, and that's part of what we need for the messaging protocol that is beneath the F asset system. And so for that to be enabled, it's like you have to go to custodians and be like, hey, like you guys need to enable this if this is how you're gonna leverage the F asset system, because otherwise people don't know what they're signing. And so there's a lot that we're working on, and a lot of it every day is just like chipping away, and eventually you get this massive or like eventually it's just like gradually then suddenly, right? That's really how I think about these things, is that you work on these deals for a really long time and then eventually it just comes across the line. And there's a lot of that we're working on right now, and a lot of things that I'm excited about. I mean, we're talking about yield trading, we're talking about like loans and accessing stables against your XRP. I mean, I haven't even touched on the vault side. I haven't touched on like how we just plan to expand like more growth outside of just like these institutions. Like there's plenty of growth vectors that we have coming up.
No, that's exciting. That's definitely exciting. Go ahead, Will.
I have a question for you, Thanos. So I've been working hard to keep the peg for FXRP, and one pain point that I found is they actually move in and out from Flare to the centralized exchanges. Do you guys have any plans of including more direct deposits for USDT zero, for example, or at some point having FXRP deposits from Flare to centralized exchanges?
Yeah, so the stablecoin front is interesting. So we have USDT zero, and I think that was a pretty big milestone for us. There's other stablecoins that we're looking at that have access to other exchanges too, that would hopefully make it a little bit easier. I can't really talk much about it, but I mean, I think you guys can probably infer. Um, there's like in terms of the USDT zero integrations, it's really, really hard to get these exchanges to activate your network and take in your ERC20. It's way harder than you think it is. Um, that being said, like I think on the USDT zero front, because you can bridge it one to one pretty much anywhere to any network that currently exists, I don't think it's necessarily a focus for us, but we are long term thinking about our stable coins and which stable coins that people want to use on our chain. That is a topic, but in terms of exchange integrations, I don't think so. Generally, for the DEX arbitrages, yeah, like people are sex to DEX arbing like very often, and well, I can tell you that like I know market makers that currently do this for Flare and XRP, and they have pretty well built systems, because this is like a lot of what their trading systems are built for is trading on chain and off chain at the same time, and they have inventory at both places, so they don't even bridge. It's kind of crazy. Um, but I mean, it's all what makes an efficient system or like an ecosystem, right? Like you do need that arbitraging to keep the price one to one.
Yeah, so for example, USDT zero from Arbitrum to Flare takes a minute, but from
Yeah.
Flare to Arbitrum takes around 15 minutes for some reason.
Yeah. So that is because so we don't beneath the USDT zero bridging, it's LayerZero messaging. And the person that deploys the LayerZero, or like the person that is deploying that specific ERC20 for bridging, defines the amount of signatures that it takes. So on the way out, it's ours, and on the way in, it's the USDT zero team that's defining that. So they have a threshold of signatures that they need to wait for before they actually bridge that in. So in terms of the 15-minute delay on the way in, that's unfortunately not something that we can control. We've spoken to the USDT zero team about it, but ultimately that's a security thing, and they decide on that. So yeah, I definitely hear you on that delay. it's definitely a bit annoying, but unfortunately that's not up to us.
Yeah, I think that's understandable. Let's see if we have any other questions in the chat before we continue. I don't see any. Well, did you see any? Maybe hoping I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, so Ricardo again is asking like how is the staked XRP going to be minted, but I mean there's already a lot of FXRP that can go straight into Firelight.
Yeah,
And what I was explaining is that the cap raise, I mean if we haven't met the cap, there's no reason to increase it. It's not because there's an issue, it's just a matter of demand, right, Thanos?
Yes, that's exactly correct. And we have the ability to increase it now that we've passed a week or 2 weeks or so. And with Firelight, I imagine there will be a lot of demand to go into Firelight. Obviously, like there's like this is phase 1 of Firelight, so they're going to be taking in deposits, and then they'll start to launch their ESSs as they continue to grow. So we'll monitor demand and raise the caps. I don't think there should be any worry of that we'll hit caps and people can't get into Firelight. Like I think that we've purposely worked with Firelight to ensure that there's enough FXRP for people to mint and deposit into Firelight.
yeah, and I mean they kind of put a little post out today, I believe, kind of giving us a timeline on when to expect mainnet go live. So if they're starting to be more active in that regard, I'm pretty sure they're looking at the numbers just like we all are and feeling confident that there's enough there to justify a healthy launch, or at least hoping for a healthy launch. Just again, I'm a boots on the ground type of guy. I don't always like to look at numbers. I like to talk to real people a lot of the times too, to as like a metric gauger. And just based on the conversations I've been having, there's plenty of interest in staked XRP. A lot of people are just lending out their FXRP now as like a stopgap until Firelight goes live, and then you'll see a lot of outflows from that, but inflow into Firelight because that's what they've been kind of waiting for. So I think we're good there. We'll see.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I mean, I think that's kind of the best part about Flare. You get to use your XRP and choose your risk parameters however you'd like, right? It's
Absolutely.
the same with your Flare. You can use your Flare however you like. That's part of building a decentralized ecosystem, and I think it's kind of cool to see that this is kind of the first for XRP to like grow and be used in this manner.
Absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, it sounds like kind of like what I thought. You guys are very calculated over there on the Flare side of things. Nothing is done without reason or without metrics being looked at. Different types of high level conversations. You guys have a lot of partners. I know Thanos, you do a lot of work involving that, so that's pretty much all you do. So that's awesome to hear that you guys are headed there, and I had no doubt in that. But I want to give you a break real quick, and I want to circle back over to Darren because we have a question. Darren, is there any timeline? I know the good win question, but any timeline you could potentially give us on APY Cloud going live on mainnet?
Imminent.
November. We'll say
Okay.
November.
Okay.
Basically the same for loans going live November.
Oh.
I mean, we're almost there. So
See, this is the good thing about being patient, I guess, is you become patient enough, you end up getting spoiled. Like two big launches in the same month would be amazing. So looking forward to that. But you heard it here first, guys. November. Look forward
yeah,
to
I
it.
mean the APY Cloud launch was kind of waiting on a good volume driver for the ecosystem and for the network. With FXRP being live, that's the best volume driver for the network. With loans going live, that'll be a great volume driver for the ecosystem, which will feed into the APY Cloud. For those who might not know, the APY Cloud is our yield aggregator. It's the whole point of the Enosys ecosystem existing. A portion of fees from all of our products get aggregated into one central place that's used to incentivize governance. That's why we have governance tokens. It's where their value actually comes from. For most of their life, they've just been being used as incentive tokens, but the reason that they the value that they should have on the market will come from the APY Cloud. It's a portion of fees from every single product that we have out there, which is quite a few of them on Songbird, which, by the way, the APY Cloud is up and running on Songbird right now. But it's a yield aggregation system. If you have our governance assets and you stake those in our governance platform for use in governance, you are earning a portion of the fees earned from all of our products, paid out daily in the token that they're taken in as. We'll eventually hit some limits for that, just because there are gas limits to how many different types of tokens you can send in one transaction. But for now, if it's a fee that's paid in FXRP, you earn it in FXRP. If it's paid in USDT0, you earn it in USDT0. So that's kind of the whole point of our ecosystem, and we're really excited to get that out there. But yeah, with loans going live, that's a good volume driver that'll kind of give that system a reason to exist. So
That's pretty interesting. So will the APY Cloud stream fee payments back to holders of the government's tokens, or is it like a pool and then you'll pay out kind of like similar to like delegations or collecting fees on an LP or anything like that? How does that work exactly?
So you could try it right now on Songbird, but the way it works is every product that we have is charging fees for something that it's doing, right? Like we've got bridge fees, we've got DEX fees, we'll have loans fees, we've got fees on the NFT stuff on Songbird. You know, there are fees associated with all of these things. We've set up an automated fee claiming system such.
We got some feedback. Well, might want to mute. There we go. Sorry about that, Darren.
Oh, no, that's so good. So we've set up an automated fee claiming system such that the activities that are going on in the ecosystem cause those fees to be claimed to a splitter, where we split that between team revenue and APY Cloud revenue. That's all fed into an APY Cloud vault, and once per day, those rewards are paid out to a distributor. There's a delay between when that gets paid out and when it can be claimed. We've set up a whole system where you have to be in for at least 24 hours, and then it's another 48 hours before those rewards from that day are claimable, just to kind of stop some gaming of the system. But basically, once you're in there with your tokens on Flare, it'll be the HLN and Apsis token. If you stake those in our governance system, which will be going live at the same time APY Cloud does, then after a few days, you'll start to see that every 24 hours there will be fees available to claim. So they're being accrued live as fees are paid, but they're being distributed once every 24 hours.
Interesting. I mean, there's a lot to be excited for. Go ahead, Will.
No, go ahead, continue.
No, I was just going to say there's a lot to be excited for in the ecosystem. I mean, we have Enosys and what you guys have been doing, and will continue to do, I'm sure. You guys have been around for a long time, so I'm not shocked that you guys are always building. It's been pretty much the consensus over on your side for a while now. Obviously, we have other dApps coming live. We'll welcome them with open arms. There will be some learning curves, especially if you try and explore Spectra. The whole PT/YT side of things is going to be something to kind of grasp for people. I'm still trying to understand the YT side. So don't feel bad if you guys don't understand Spectra or just yield trading in general. There's definitely a learning curve there, and plenty more to come. You have Firelight coming up, and several other things. So there's a lot going on. Price is not the only thing that we should be worried about. Obviously, the entire market kind of took a hit taking a little breather. But I'm pretty sure it'll get back going in the right direction, at least for those that are actually building something. And Flare is actually building something, so the future is indeed bright. Well, I don't know if you have anything you want to hit. We're coming up on an hour, so don't want to keep these guys for too long.
Yeah, I have another question that a lot of people have asked me on the private community that we have, Thanos. Are you guys going to include sFLR for the collateral pools, for FXRP collateral pools?
We've talked about it. I think there's some risks that our product team has pointed out. We've been thinking about it, and it's definitely something that's been discussed. But there's certain liquidity requirements and things like that we take into consideration. So yeah, that's probably the best answer I can give you.
All right, yeah, fair enough. All right, so to close, in a few words, what are you most excited for November, Thanos and Darren?
Yeah, I can go first here. I'm most excited for Firelight getting closer to launch, more testing on the institutional side of FXRP, getting more venues for people to leverage or use their XRP on Flare, and just overall just a healthier ecosystem, and then kind of turning the page and like really like ramping things up by getting just like a lot of eyeballs on what Flare is doing.
Yeah, I mean, can I say pumpkin pie, or just talking about DeFi stuff, right?
Of course, I didn't
Yeah, I
say
mean,
about
November's
crypto. I
gonna be
just said
huge,
November.
right? Like stuff is just lining up this month. With Firelight looking like they're going live, we're going live with a couple things. So it should be a really solid end of the year. And if those things grow, again, the more people in the ecosystem use them, the more attractive it looks to other builders who look and say, hey, there's actually enough volume there for me to look, which makes Thanos' job a lot easier. For him to go out there and say, look at all the activity, look at the growth, look at how well this is doing, come and join us. So the more people are active, the more people try things. Again, don't push buttons if you don't know what they do, but like take the time now to study up on these things. I think people often think that because something is easy to do, that that it should be easy to understand, but some of the stuff is not easy to understand. So you would take a lot of time and care before you went and took out a home loan. Consider the same level of care when you're putting up, large amounts of assets into things. Like it's still money, it's still there. You should still treat it with care. But taking risks is how you earn reward. So there's a balance there to be had for sure. But yeah, don't push buttons if you don't know what they do for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I tell people in our private community all the time, read the docs, test things out, because I don't want to hear scam this, scam that. Like, and I'm so serious about that. Like, oh man, I can't put more emphasis on that. Know what you're doing before you actually do it. Try things out. So, man, I appreciate you guys for taking the time out of your busy days to sit and have a conversation with us. It's always nice talking to you. I'm excited. We're all excited over here at Flare Forward. There's a lot going on in Flare, and hope to catch up with you guys soon. So, happy holidays. Have a good weekend.
Always
Thank you,
have to do
guys,
it,
and
guys.
enjoy your
Thanks, guys.
pumpkin pie.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
everybody.
These guys.